Howdy, howdy, howdy. My name is Anacha Sasuke, and welcome back to Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. I decided last night at like 2 o'clock in the morning to just try to blitz through the rest of the 1300s this week instead of spacing it out like I was gonna. So in this episode, we're going to be reading about the Mistake Ring, Sentient Ice Cream Van, Giant Seagull Airlines, One-Size-Fits-All Subarus, and a Saint. It already sounds like some of these are going to be uncomfortable. But it's safe, so it's not going to be a Euclid Palooza. And hopefully it's also not going to be a whole bunch of extra-dimensional boxes like yesterday. Alright, so SCP-1385 is to be contained inside a standard safe class containment locker at all times unless under test conditions. Also, I don't know if the microphone is picking up the fact that I'm chewing gum, but I'm doing that to keep my throat moist while I read. Because for whatever reason, for specifically SCP videos, after a certain amount of time, I stop being able to breathe. So I'm working on that. Anyway, if you can hear the chewing, I'm sorry, but it's so that I can keep doing it. All tests are to be approved by at least one Level 3 senior researcher. It is recommended that any human test subjects interacting with 1385 be screened for shellfish allergies, excluding tests involving 1385 and subjects with shellfish allergies. Description: SCP-1385 is a ring composed of concrete measuring 19 millimeters in diameter and weighing approximately 1.4 grams. The object has many superficial flaws in the form of cracks and air bubbles, though it has been coated with a polyurethane resin resulting in a glossy texture. The anomalous properties become evident whenever a living human wears it on any part of their body. The most immediately evident effect is the spontaneous and instantaneous appearance of fully grown specimens of Silybum marianum milk thistle on any surface the subject's feet contact. This includes the soles of any footwear the subject attempts to wear. Because of the presence of spines typical of Silybum marianum, this invariably results in minor injury to the subject's feet and great discomfort when attempting to walk. Secondary effects of 1385 are not immediately noticeable due to both the length of time required for them to be observed and the specific conditions required for their emergence. The first of these effects causes a rapid increase in the growth of the subject's hair. In just 3 days of contact with 1385, hair growth can exceed 1 meter. The hair weaves itself into a net-like pattern, after which the subject gains conscious control of the hair. These nets can be used by the subject to scoop up objects they would normally be able to pick up with their hands. The forces holding the weaves intact are not currently understood, nor those which allow the subject to voluntarily control them. Finally, subjects under the influence have an unexplained effect on crustaceans of the family Nephropidae, and some species from the family Homaridae, clawed lobsters. See Addendum C for a complete list of affected species. Do we have that addendum? I don't know yet. Affected specimens will invariably attempt physical contact with the subject with no regard to self-preservation. Subjects in tests have expired from asphyxiation before breaking contact. This effect is more easily observed if the subject is submerged in water along with several specimens. Addendum A. 1385 was discovered on April the 22nd, 2000-something, in an abandoned warehouse somewhere. The warehouse had apparently been taken as a place of residence by an unknown party, later identified as blankety blank blank. They had left the premises several days prior on the 19th, but had left behind a majority of his equipment and possessions. The equipment is highly eclectic in nature, ranging from scientific instruments to religious paraphernalia. More notable objects include one argon ion laser, one iron Thor's hammer amulet, one booklet containing 3 instances of SCP blank, 34 liters of kombucha tea, 3 vertebrae of an unknown species, DNA analysis proved inconclusive, and the crushed remains of 42, I don't know where I got 34 from, 42 concrete rings identical to 1385 in dimensions. Addendum B. A 300-page journal belonging to somebody else, I guess, was discovered at the site of the recovery. 249 of the pages contain either writing sketches or both, with the remaining pages being blank. The following are notable excerpts from the journal. Day 1. Today I set out to create something I've never attempted before. I'm confident I have the skills to pull it off, but to be sure, I brought plenty of supplies in case I screw it up and need to try again. Soon enough, I'll be sitting pretty with a conjuring ring. I can't wait to see the look on their faces when I show it to them. Day 24. I think I'm getting close now. The last ring was a failure like the rest, but at least it didn't turn my earwax into maggots. I wonder if it had something to do with the placement of the basalt spheres? Reminder, see if you can't contact, phenylalanine, blah, 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 for some advice. However the heck you say that. Day 47. This is getting more than a little frustrating. I just can't seem to achieve the desired effect. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. It should be working. Everything's in place from what I've been taught. The laser, the skull, the helium-3. It's all exactly where it's supposed to be. I'm going to call it a night and review my notes tomorrow. Attempts at duplicating using the notes are ongoing, but have thus far yielded no anomalous results. Page 249. Fuck it! This entry was written in large letters across the page. And there is no addendum C, so I guess it doesn't matter. So I guess the reason it's called the mistake ring is because it's not supposed to turn your hair into a crab net, but it does. It doesn't seem like it's really, hurting anybody, so I guess that's why it's safe. If you don't wear it, then it's just a ring, and if you do wear it, you can control your hair, which is probably bad for specific disposable dudes, but only for the SCP Foundation. Next up is Giant Seagull Airlines. No, it's not. Next up is Sentient Ice Cream Van. The page was just Wiki. It's Euclid, and it says good humor, and it's a box. Is it extra-dimensional? We shall see. SCP-1386 is currently located in an evacuated 4-block neighborhood, surrounded by a 10-meter-high reinforced concrete containment wall somewhere, 8 kilometers from the nearest inhabited neighborhood. Due to the incident with Dr. Somebody on April the 17th of 2012, it is to be kept under constant surveillance and must only be approached by disposable dudes. Or dudettes. Any individual that comes within a 3 meter radius of 1386 must give the appearance of being happy, such as by smiling or laughing. If it is approached by someone who does not appear happy, the subject will feign hostility, emitting a low growl from its interior, and refuse to interact positively until the individual's demeanor changes. It is as of yet unknown if 1386 will act out on its aggression if exacerbated. When making contact with 1386, it is strongly advised to have at least $20 of American currency in hand and in plain view of it. If it does not sense currency on the individual approaching it, a siren that has been known to cause bleeding of the inner ear will blare from its undercarriage for the next 24 hours. All attempts to silence the siren have failed, and once it has begun, the subject will refuse to move from its current location until the 24-hour period has passed. Any attempts at interaction with it during this period have been known to momentarily increase the intensity of the siren. Description: SCP-1386 is a white good humor brand ice cream truck in poor condition and lacking any images or descriptions of the product it sells. The van appears to be sapient as it drives without a person behind the wheel. After the investigation of March 15, 2012, it has been concluded that none of the doors or windows in the vehicle open through conventional means. The van plays instrumental melodies of Pop Goes the Weasel and Twinkle Twinkle Little Star 24 hours a day, alternating between the two every 4 hours. On occasion, it has been known to play a version of Greensleeves, but will immediately switch to another song when in the presence of customers. It has a thin slot in the middle of the driver's side door, which only becomes visible when it dispenses the various ice cream products it sells. Along with the ice cream, the van slides out a small slip of receipt paper with a price written on it in what has been described as very sloppy but legible handwriting. The van receives payment through the same slide it delivers ice cream from and will drive away as soon as it is paid. The prices and flavors of the ice cream products it sells fluctuate daily, but it never runs out of its stock of items. Notable tests of the van are as follows. On March 30th, Doctors Blank and Blank each requested 1 cookies and cream smoothie, and they were dispensed as asked. However, one smoothie was marked with a handwritten M and the other a handwritten G. The receipt was for $4.89 and was paid without incident. On the 1st, Dr. D requested 1 Neapolitan ice cream sandwich. After several seconds, the van slid out what appeared to be a meat and cheese sandwich with tomato. The sandwich was made out of chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry ice cream, respectively. The receipt given read, April Fools! And the van drove away before the doctor could inquire about payment. On the 12th, that doctor asked for a single scoop of vanilla ice cream in a waffle cone. The product was dispensed as asked with a receipt that read 72 cents and was paid without incident. On the 17th, Dr. F requested 1 peach push pop and received it along with a receipt of $16.27. They expressed disapproval at the price for the ice cream and refused to pay the full amount, instead paying a total of $3.75 in quarters. When they attempted to walk away, the van opened the slot in its door to an approximate height of 6 feet and dragged the doctor inside by use of a large rusted steel trap. The van then returned its slot to its former size and proceeded to spew out a pink substance from its slot for 5 straight minutes before driving away with no further incident. Upon inspection of the pink substance, it was found to consist of blood, skin, tissue, and bone fragments whose DNA signature matched that of Dr. F. Due to the incident of April the 17th, all further attempts to interact with 1386 must be through D-Class personnel. On the 27th, that disposable dude asked the van for a cherry popsicle, adding, with nuts. The van seemed to wait several seconds, then dispensed a single cherry popsicle unwrapped with nuts embedded in the ice. The receipt given read 220, "You're nuts!" and D was recorded as chuckling as he read the paper. The van was paid without incident. On the 30th, I'm not sure if it's the same person, requested a Caesar salad flavor popsicle. After a few moments, the van dispensed a popsicle with an off-green coloration, which was noted to taste of lightly dressed lettuce with a hint of croutons. The receipt was paid for $4.56 and paid without incident. This is a weirdly long one. D asked for a dark chocolate fudge pop and received it with a receipt of $1.38, paid for it with 2 single-dollar bills. After receiving payment, the van made a sound akin to a cash register from within what is presumably the area which the ice cream is stored, and then dispensed a small factory wrap package. There was no written indication of what was contained inside the package, but on the front there was a crudely drawn image of what appeared to be various coins, all of American currency. The van drove off once the package was dispensed. At the urging of Dr. J, D was then assigned to inspect the contents of the package. It was found to have a total of 62 cents in American currency. When the coins were considered safe, D asked if he could keep the change. Request was denied. What was he going to do with it? On the 10th of May, D asked for an ice cream Kinder Egg, which was dispensed along with a receipt of $3.87 and paid without incident. The Kinder Egg appeared similar to the kind popular in Europe, though made of ice cream instead of chocolate. D reported the exterior to be made of coffee ice cream and the interior French vanilla. However, there was no toy inside as ordinary Kinder Eggs have. Instead, there was a small slip of parchment paper that read, "I owe you one toy." On the 16th, D requested the following, in order: 1 cherry ice lolly, 1 cherry ice pop, 1 cherry popsicle, and 1 cherry flavored drink frozen. The van made what D described as a real unnerving sound, like someone skinning a cat in reverse, for several seconds before flinging out of its slot red sticks of unwrapped ice, shattering them on the pavement. Moments later, it dispensed a large styrofoam cup full of a frozen green liquid. D was noted as asking the van, "What do I owe you?" and was given no response before the van drove off. Upon inspection of the shards of ice from the first 3 sticks, it was discovered that the frozen substance was made up of 2 parts water, 1 part arsenic, and red food dye. The styrofoam cup was found to contain an unknown substance with a melting point so high it is impossible to thaw with current technology. The substance and the cup are presently being held for further examination. On the 20th, a new procedure has been tested. Personnel D-7, mute but able to write, requested a vanilla cone and chocolate through use of pencil and paper. The request was raised to the area where the dispensing slot usually appears. After a full minute, the van opened another slot 3 inches lower than the normal one. A thin, flesh-colored appendage slid out of the slot to retrieve the paper before retreating and closing the slot. Moments later, the normal slot opened and the ice cream was received. The receipt was for 97 cents and was paid without incident. When questioned about the transaction, D7 responded in frantic sign language. It is transcribed as follows. "It was a hand, not human. 2 fingers and a thumb. It was bony like a dead body and it smelled dead." D7 refused to eat the ice cream that was received, claiming they had lost their appetite. On the 30th, following the events of the 20th, D5, who was not mute, was given the order to repeat the same test, writing the request on paper and giving it to the van. The van received the paper through the secondary slot by use of another flesh-colored appendage and completed the transaction as requested. The receipt was for 86 cents and was paid without incident. When questioned about the transaction and the appendage in particular, they responded, "I don't see what B was getting all worked up about. It's just a hand, you know? There's probably just some guy in there handing out ice cream. Sure, it's weird, but what here isn't?" On the 4th of June, personnel D-2, who was also not mute, was given the order to write a new request on paper and give it to the van. The request was for banana sundae with hot fudge. As in previous tests, it accepted the paper through a secondary slot by use of its hand and processed the request. The receipt was for $2.78 and was paid without incident. When questioned about the transaction, they stated, There's gotta be somebody in there. I swear I heard somebody cough like they had a cold or something. When the topic of the hand was further pushed, D responded, "Look, it's not that big of a deal. Just a hand. Got all 5 fingers, looked healthy, certainly not dead or whatever. Beast just lost it. Never trusted that guy much anyway." On the 6th no test, personnel D7 logged 5:30 was found dead in their holding block at 7:40. Approximate time of death is 4:30. The autopsy shows that they died of strangulation, and light bruising on the neck confirms this. The death has been marked as suicide as they did not share a cell with any other personnel, and their cell door showed no sign of forced entry. So, I guess for some reason, either the mute guy saw something different, or the mute guy saw its actual hand and it started making its hand look more and more hand-like, and then came after the person? I don't know. It's Euclid, so I guess that might be why it's Euclid. Also, they can't really contain it because it's a living truck. Now we're at Giant Seagull Airlines, which is Euclid, because why wouldn't it be Euclid? 1387 is currently contained in Area 55. Primary containment consists of a 100 by 100 by 30 meter steel reinforced concrete hangar. It is to be restrained in this hangar with 30 high-tension steel cables at all times and is to be under constant surveillance. At least 10 armed guards are to be on standby in case of a breach. Once per month, its wings are to be clipped. A 15-meter high electric fence is to be maintained around the perimeter of the primary containment hangar. Fence is to be charged to 5 kilowatts at 1 amp, I guess. Possibly 1 ampere. During maintenance, fence is to be powered down to 3 kilovolts. All personnel involved in maintenance are to observe standard live line working procedures. This is definitely one of those scenarios of, if it's just a giant seagull, why are you containing it? Just like hit it with a really big rock or something. 1387 is a very large avian creature similar in appearance to a seagull, measuring approximately 20 meters in length, with a wingspan of approximately 25 meters. That is, if it's dangerous. If it's not dangerous, then this is still a weird way to handle that. Why not just let it be a giant bird? It lacks a heart, respiratory system, or digestive system, as its body cavity instead contains a space closely resembling the cabin of a passenger aircraft. The space is 2.5 by 15 meters in area, with exactly 40 seats and 20 windows, though none of them are visible from the outside. On the sides of 1387's body are several rigid flaps of skin which act as entry points to the interior. It does not require nutrition, but recovers from injury quite slowly, with major injuries rendering it comatose for weeks. Once every 3 to 5 months, it will land at the nearest airport to its current location and initiate its primary effect. It will produce a perceptual effect, causing people to observe the creature as a regional passenger aircraft. This effect applies only to direct observation. Photographs and videos are unaffected. During this state, a group of between 23 and 34 people in the airport designated 1 will attempt to move towards it and enter its interior. Testing has shown that it is not possible to prevent one instance of 1 from entering the interior, as instances have invariably been able to find other routes when 1 is blocked. Attempts to physically restrain them have similarly failed, as they have been able to escape any restraint. Once all instances of 1 have entered its interior, it will take off and fly until it next exhibits its primary effect. It used to say, thus far, no instances have been located after the event, and then it said 1 instance has been recovered, and it did say they were being held in Site 101, but now it says the addendum. Current containment procedures have prevented it from manifesting any of its properties. However, the entity is extremely hostile and actively attempts to breach containment. As of blank 2000 something, it is classified Euclid. Addendum 1. On blank 2000 something, an instance of 1 identified as Jonathan someone was recovered someplace and transported to Site 101. The following interview was conducted upon arrival. Interviewed, SCP-1387-1, Jonathan somebody, by Dr. O. Please state your name for the interview. Jonathan blank. Do you remember anything about blank the blank of 1990 blank? Yeah, it rings a bell. I remember going to the airport. I was flying somewhere. I can't remember exactly where. I boarded the plane and waited for the plane to take off. Do you know what happened next? We took off. I was sitting next to this gal. I remember she had these really beautiful green eyes. I looked out my window and it was a really nice sunny day outside, and then I remember seeing a bird. There was a whole flock of them flying in this blob-shaped swarm, and I looked back at the cabin, and there were the other passengers, and we were on the plane, and you're doing well. Can you remember past that? One moment I see her sitting next to me, then in the blink of an eye, she was gone. Not just her, but everyone on the plane gone, and in the place all I could see was birds. They filled the cabin. It was almost surreal. Then I couldn't see anything, and after that, nothing. Next thing I knew, I was on a bench back at the airport. I thought it was all a dream. I was all dazed, and I started walking. I was getting really dizzy, and then eventually a guard found me. He looked at me and asked if I was drunk. I told him I didn't know what was happening. I think I blacked out there. When I woke up, I was in a police station, and then you guys took me down here. Okay, I believe we are done here. Is there anything you'd like to add? I think I saw her. Ooh. While I was walking down here, she flew by that window in the hall. She was beautiful, like a raven. I knew it was her because of her eyes. Hope I can see her soon. On blankety blank 2000 something, 3 months after coming into Foundation custody, the sole recovered instance of one was reported missing from his cell. A search of the site found no trace of the subject. So I guess he turned into a bird or something? It sounds like what happens is people get into the seagull that pretends to be a plane, and then they turn into birds. If it weren't for the fact that these seem to be regular people and not just people created by the effect of the bird, it wouldn't sound like it's that big of a deal. But if it's just a bunch of regular people hopping on a bird and then turning into birds who've been lost forever, that's bad. One size fits all Subarus. All rights reserved. Is this going to be a Dr. Wondertainment thing? Let's see. It's considered safe. Specimens of 1388 are to be stored in opaque 20 centimeter small item containers. When being studied, D-Class personnel should be the only personnel to directly observe and interact with the garments. Class C amnesiacs, oh this is an old article, if it's saying amnesiacs, appears sufficient to overcome any compulsive effects of the item if limited to 12 hours of exposure. Class B from 12 to 16 hours of exposure, and Class A over 16 continuous hours of exposure. All known specimens of 1388 are currently in small item storage at Sector 25. SCP-1388 are a collection of brief-style underwear designs related to various unlicensed superheroes, done in comic book style. The words "superpowers" are stitched into the waistband. The label on the inside rear of the garment reads "One size fits all Subarus." Currently, 2 identical specimens are in Foundation custody. The specimens exhibit 3 key phenomena. The first is a space-altering effect whereby the waistband can stretch to accommodate any person who attempts to wear them. There is no apparent stress or damage done to the garment. The second is a mind-altering effect whereby any person wearing the underwear believes themselves to be truly a superhero, capable of superhuman strength, heightened senses, and unassisted flight. The effect manifests itself fully over a period of roughly 12 hours, after which all test subjects have grown increasingly agitated and distraught. Beyond 16 hours, the wearer is at high risk of self-mutilation and accidental death, and Class C amnestics are no longer effective. The wearer should be first sedated, the garment removed, and a Class C amnestic administered. No physical changes or new abilities have been observed despite the subject's insistence as to their new powers. Blood and urine samples indicate significantly increased amounts of dopamine and serotonin, seeming to increase with a rate proportional to what the subject calls superpowers. The third is a compulsive effect whereby any person who views the garment will wish to wear it. All subjects, when questioned, have given responses related to nostalgia and or the thrill of being a child again. Addendum. The first specimen of 1388 was remanded to Foundation custody on June 8, 1990-something by London authorities following what appeared to be a rash of suicides by county morgue workers. Blank thousand something people in total had jumped to their death before forensic scientists noticed a morgue technician removing the underwear from a corpse and putting it on themselves. Suspecting sexual crimes, the scientists contacted the police who, after the apparent suicide of the technician who tried to stop a train by standing in front of it, contacted Foundation agents at Sector 25. Efforts to trace the line of suicides and workers back to Incident 0 were successful, but no living kin could be contacted. The second specimen was remanded to Foundation custody on September 27, 2000-something in Manhattan, New York, after a failed suicide attempt by John Doe jumping off the 76th floor of Blank Tower. Site 28 in Soho picked up an anomalous police chatter as authorities attempted to talk down a victim. Mobile Task Force Pi 1 City Slickers was deployed. The victim was disabled by means of a fast-acting tranquilizer and the specimen secured. However, the victim never recovered from sedation and was taken off life support October 5th, 2000-something. It is presently unknown how many other 1388 specimens exist. Reports of above-average suicide rates in a locale, especially in the forensics field, may indicate a new 1388 specimen. 2/8-1388 access may be granted by level 3 staff at Sector 25. Okay, so it's not Dr. Wondertainment, it's actually terrible. And that brings us to a saint, who is safe, and I guess it's the painting. SCP-1389 is to be kept in a protective plexiglass case at all times when not undergoing testing. The surface of the image is extremely delicate and must therefore be handled exclusively by personnel specially trained in the handling and restoration of antique documents and works of art. If for any reason the need arises for 1389 to be moved while it is not contained in its protective case, it is to be held only by the edge or the back of the icon. No further tissue samples may be taken from 1389 without explicit permission from the site director. SCP-1389 is a gilded icon of a Christian saint, presumably Mary Magdalene, rendered in the Russian Orthodox tradition. The object of the depiction has an expression of great distress, and its image is raised approximately 1 millimeter from the background of the icon. The icon was retrieved from an Orthodox monastery near somewhere in Russia. The anomalous properties went unnoticed until increasingly large numbers of pilgrims were reported to be congregating there to see the living saint. When asked about the origins, the resident monks claimed that the icon was given as a gift to the monastery by an anonymous artist and that it had been in their possession for centuries. Was it the Are We Cool Yet people? I don't think they've existed for centuries. 1389 has no abnormal visual attributes, but the figure it depicts is slightly warmer than standard facility temperature at 35 degrees Celsius. X-ray imaging reveals a complete human skeleton directly underneath the surface of the image, flattened into scale with the figure's form. No dissections have been carried out on it due to the possibility of destroying it, but CT scans indicate that fully functional circulatory and nervous systems exist underneath the paint, implying that it is a living organism. Neurological tests have proven that 1389 has an emotional reaction when spoken to and is likely intelligent. Development is underway on potential methods for 1389 to communicate. Addendum 1 Testimonies of 1389. It was initially believed that it had no capacity for movement, but the figure has shown that it is capable of moving its eyes to follow an object. An interface based on those utilized by victims of full-body paralysis has been installed in front of 1389, consisting of a panel of Cyrillic letters and common Russian phrases that are activated when it makes eye contact with them. After demonstrating the device's functionality to it, 1389 has proven to be capable of communicating with testing personnel through this interface, but has thus far refused to respond directly to questioning. Its statements can happen days apart from one another and are often only semi-coherent. The following transcriptions have been translated from the original Russian. I was born of my mother's womb, not cobbled together by the clumsy hand of the artisan in this cage of wood and flesh. I am undone, I've broken my vows, I am undone. Those fools took a sinner to be their saint, and I obliged them. They held me prisoner as an example to the others. They rang their thunderous church bells praising God, yet I often wonder which God it is they prayed to. I cannot get out. You are not my liberators. So, it seems like there's someone trapped in the painting and they're frustrated that the SCP Foundation is not helping them not be trapped in a painting. Even if they knew how to get it out of the painting, they wouldn't. Because the SCP Foundation is not in the business of helping people. They think they're in the business of helping people, but they are not in the business of helping people. Someone should probably tell them that if they were real. But they're not. But they might be, because they're not helping people, so how would we know if they're real or not? Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode of Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. If you liked it, a like and a subscribe will be groovy. If you didn't, you need to do either one of those things. If you want to click the bell, you can do that as well so that you're notified of future uploads. And in the next episode, we'll be checking out a dead language, a field of stone, functioning scarificator, somebody else's mess, and dream syringe. So thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Later.